Hi everyone, my name is Pedro Faria and welcome back to another Data in the Wild episode hosted by Data Meaning. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel below, click on the bell to turn on the notifications to be the first to know every time we upload a new video.
Today, we're going to be talking about text to columns versus text to rows. Looking at our data set, we can see that we have a customer column as well as an address column. The address column is being separated by commas and contains address information. So to separate the address column into multiple columns, we're going to be using the text to columns. The text to columns, we're going to be selecting the address column to split. By default, the comma is already the selected delimiter. However, now we need to specify the number of columns. So for example, we can select 4 as we run the workflow. We can see the address 4 contains additional data that got stuck over here. It did not get separated like the others. Or sometimes we just don't have data, as you can see by this specific row or this row or this row. So this means that we have additional data that did not get parsed. So either we need to change the number of columns, or we can skip to the second option, which is to how we want to manipulate the extra characters. Do you want to keep them or do you want to remove them? You do have the option of removing them without extra warning. So this means that we're going to be removing this and just ignore that if it doesn't exist. So in this specific case, we need to always make sure that our data is in this specific format, as well as it's never going to change because we need to always specify the number of columns. So now you know the split to columns is a manual option. So using this configuration, maybe this is what we're looking for, and we have the ability of dropping that. But if we needed to keep the other information, we have to manually change this to 5. And then we can work with that as well. However, we have a dynamic way of approaching this problem. I'm going to drag it in a new text to columns. And instead of doing a split to columns, I'm going to be working with a split to rows. I'm going to select the proper column. My delimiter is still the same, but now notice one thing, I do not have to specify the quantity of columns. I don't have to specify anything. It is automatic, so it will be using as many rows as I need to use. So as I run the workflow, you can see now everything got properly separated. But what's one thing that we need to pay attention to? This format of the data set is not really easy to read. So probably we still want to get something that looks like this, but just in a dynamic way. So let's work on this. How many columns do I need? Well, you can count exactly how many times each customer ID shows up, or we can use all dynamic options. Under preparation, you can drag it in a tile tool. We're going to keep the default configuration, but we're going to check the customer ID to group by. As we use the tile tool, we're going to create a count of how many times each customer ID shows up. So now, looking at the last column, we can see that customer ID number 1 shows up 5 times, number 2, 5 times, on and on. So we can use these numbers over here, this sequence, to properly populate our columns. So let's take a look at it. On the transform, I can drag a cross tab. In the cross tab, I'll be grouping by customer ID. I'll be using the tile sequence number as the column header. And we're using the address column as the actual address, as the actual value. Let me selecting first over here, And as I run the workflow, we can see that we're able to get to the same point as we did before in an automatic way. Notice one thing, at no point am I actually selecting how many columns or nothing like this. Everything is automatic from the split to rows, to the tile, to the cross tab. So what do you need to know? If you need to separate data into columns, you can do this manually using the split to columns option. However, you need to make sure that your data is never changing. If it is and you don't really know what's going to come in the future, you probably want to leverage an option like the split to rows, which is automatic, and then gives you the ability of doing everything automatic without selecting the number of columns that you need to work with, either being 500 or even 1,000. So this was it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Have a nice one, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to know when future videos are posted. Thank you for watching.